So with it being spooky season and all, I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about what counts as like an entry-level horror movie. Now that can be a broad description when it comes down to it, because there are different variations of entry level of films when it comes to horror. It could be entry level for kids, or a friend of yours, or a family member, or a partner. The broad it's a very broad it's a very broad term, to be honest. It is a very broad and very I was going somewhere, but I lost it. I ripped my soul out in a short not too long ago, so I'm kind of recovering from that. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking about like what I think could be a good entry level horror movie for certain people. I'm going to start with kids first, and then I'm going to work my way to like adults. So for if you are a parent or want to have kids, or want them to see horror movies but aren't ready for it, or don't think they can take it, I'm going to give a few suggestions on what I think could be entry level horror movies for children, and then we'll move on to adults. So this is our first one. I personally think that there is a good number of entry level horror movies for children. Hocus Pocus is spooky, but it's also scary enough where it tinge that little horror itch right there. If they can handle Hocus Pocus, they're good. I think another one that falls into that category is Gremlins. Now, Gremlins I know is technically a Christmas movie, but I still think it definitely counts in the vein of it definitely counts in that same vein, where it's spooky enough and creepy enough that if they can survive that, they can move on. Now, this is one I think definitely could work for entry-level horror for children, and that's Jaws. The reason I say that is from personal experience. You see, I have a baby sister, and she was like, can we watch something scary? Now, granted, her mother, not my mom, she came from a different mom, she's my half-sister. Whole thing, I ain't gonna get into it. Her mom made her watch It way too young, and also made her watch Terrifier way too young. I mean, she does like horror now, but there are limits to what you can watch. She actually, fun story before I get into it, she actually watched, I sat her down and we watched the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and she thought it was meh. I mean, after you watch Terrifier, then again, if you watch Terrifier at 12 years old, which I'm sure a lot of kids have done already, there's no appreciation for the finer arts, I suppose. But if you want to be a responsible parent, let's keep going. Now, this movie, like I said, is Jaws, and the reason why I'm bringing this back is that Jaws works as an entry level because it's not too scary. They may not like the water after this, but yeah. If they can get over the jump scare scene, the one I'm talking about. My baby sister, that was the one where she, when the jump scare scene came on, she immediately ducked behind the couch, and my mom had to console her for a bit. She's good now, and she does like the movie, but if they can get past that, they're good. Especially with that, I think also Jaws works in terms of, it's a bloodier movie, it's a more violent movie, so if they can get through that, I think they're good. I think another one that can definitely work in terms of pseudo-horror would probably be Return to Oz, but that one kids might find boring. I'm going to be honest. I think also it depends on the Universal monsters as well. It depends on which Universal monster movie you want to use. If you want to use something that's a little more engaging to get their attention, I would say Frankenstein or Creature from the Black Lagoon or even The Invisible Man. But that's going to depend on if they can gauge their interest. I love those movies to death. It's one of my favorite horror franchises of all time. But at the same time, it is also very, very niche, especially if you're a young kid. That some of those scenes may drag. So that one I'm going to leave up to you. But I would definitely say Jaws is your best bet. If they can get past Jaws and like it, or Hocus Pocus, they're good. They are good. So those are a handful of movies I would suggest for a young viewer to watch as a horror movie. Now let's talk, and now let's get into the big thing. Now let's get into the big nitty gritty, shall we? Um, this is a kind of a broader thing of entry level horror, because there's so many films of like that. What if your partner or family member or someone else loves horror or likes to spooky stuff? Like, oh, I love Nightmare Before Christmas. That's another one I'd show to kids. They can probably get through that. They're good. I love Nightmare Before Christmas, or I love Beetlejuice. I'm so spooky. I'm not saying throw a Terrifier in their face or sit them down from like, hey, hun, do you want to watch August Underground? Do not Google that. I'm just saying, don't throw them off the deep end right out the gate. There's we're trying to do baby steps here, ladies and gentlemen. I definitely think there is like a handful of horror, whether you don't like it or like it, that can work. And also it works for different genres. It's a perfect example of why I say that. My girlfriend, she did not like slasher films. She loved horror, and she did like Art the Clown and all that, but she never was a fan of slashers. Like, she still doesn't like Jason Voorhees. And now my friend Jason Voorhees 2011 is just like, what'd I do to you? But Jason was never her, like Freddy, Jason, she's never cared about them and was never a big slasher fan. But then she sat down and watched Scream. And I think Scream, if you want to get someone you know into slasher films, I think Scream is the perfect entry-level slasher film. That or Halloween. The original Halloween someone might find is boring, but that's why I say Scream first and foremost. Scream is high energy, Scream is fun, and Scream is scary enough where you can be like, that was kind of fun. And now she does dig slashers. So I would say, if you want to get someone you know into slasher films, Scream is your best bet. Then you do Friday the 13th. Then you do Nightmare on Elm Street. Then you do any order, but yeah, Halloween, whatever, My Bloody Valentine, all of those good slasher films. But I would dare say, going in, Scream is your best bet for, slasher entry. Anyway, so the other entry-level film, if you want to have something scary but not too intense, is The Conjuring. Now, I know The Conjuring films are essentially up in the air. Like, you love them, you hate them, but you can't deny that first movie made a shit ton of money. It made a lot. Like, it made a ridiculous amount of money. But the thing of it is that also is, I think, a perfect way to get someone into a more intense horror film without being too intense. You know what I mean? Where the scares can pop out and be like, oh shit, that was kind of fun, that got me. Or something of that nature. It's not like way too strong, and it's also like not too like trying to be hoity-toity arty. Like, if you want to get them, like, I wouldn't say if you want to get someone into more high intense horror films, I'm not saying like maybe do The Lighthouse or The Witch. I love those movies, but like, they ain't good for entry level. The Conjuring is perfect. I'm not going to say like Annabelle or something like that, but the first two Conjuring films I would definitely recommend for entry level horror. As for others, I would dare say, The Exorcist is one, The Omen. There's another one if you want to get and this is going to be fun, because I definitely think any of the Final Destination movies are perfect, absolutely perfect for entry-level horror. Those can actually be like, if your kids are like a little older, you can get them into watching, be like, hey, this one's going to be fun, and also it's going to make them shut up when you're driving and they see a log truck. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely think that Final Destination's another great one, and it's a great franchise too that you and your partner or what have you binge watch. There's 6 movies now, all of them, even the bad ones, have some solid kills, I ain't gonna lie. But it is, I think, Final Destination is another great entry-level horror. This one is going to depend on how much boredom you can do, or how much they can deal with ambience. And that is The Blair Witch. The Blair Witch, I have a love-hate with because I watch it and I still am like, nah. I mean, there's some good tension here and there, but like it's hard. But I do acknowledge that movie did some like the ad campaigns and everything else. That was all important to filming. So that one's going to be like if they want to get him into Handycam. I would say another one that would probably, if you want to get into like found footage, exists, which is from one of the creators of Blair Witch and is a really cool Bigfoot movie too. Yeah. I would say also if you want to get into a little something like edge them for, that was the wrong word to use. If you want to just put them a little further into horror, maybe do something. I'm not going to say House. I was going to say for international horror, like Houseu. Oh, no. God, no, that's way too much. Even when I first watched it, I was like, okay, that was a lot. I don't know. I like that movie, but I don't know if I ever want to watch it again. But yeah, I also think that if you want to get into international horror, I think one that could really work is Ringu or The Grudge. Either one of those could work. Those are a little more intense, but not too intense. There's more suspense than anything else. Even the American cut of the Ring also works. So those are just a few ideas for all of you out there. If you want to get a certain someone or your child or a family member or what have you into watching horror movies this season, those are a few suggestions I would make. But yeah, you guys tell me in the comments below, what are some horror suggestions you would have for entry level for someone? Just comment below, let me know. I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about this one. This is gonna be an interesting topic. Yeah. Anyway, just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.